Good afternoon. Afternoon, everybody. Just making sure I'm coming through okay. Yep. Hope everybody's well. Ian, Rohan, how we doing? Paul, Lam, hope you are all well. Sorry I wasn't streaming on Monday. It was Labor Day, but I had a couple meetings in the afternoon that I had to do. And also Monday for me, I had about 3 pairs on my watch list. So I thought, well, I need to do this. More importantly, and there's not much to talk about. So hope everybody's well and trading okay. Now, if we get into it, let's just get straight into it, shall we? Dollar. So dollar, I think is Rain, mate. How you doing, pal? Hope you're well. Dollar, I think, is interesting. So I did a little bit of a DXY analysis this morning, and there's a few scenarios here that I'm thinking that possibly could play out. Now, the first thing is we were looking at, I can't remember if I was looking at, certainly on the website I was streaming about this, and at this point in time, we were still under the theory that this was a pullback in terms of trend continuation. And it was. But we've got a decent push now on this dollar. We've broken through this resistance area. We've accepted this resistance area, and we are pushing on. So in terms of a pullback on this 4-hour chart, that kind of scenario is gone. However, that scenario on the daily chart is still in play. We have had a decent move to the downside. We've hit this support zone, and even though it looks strong on the daily, there's no doubt about it, it's still technically in pullback mode. So we could come up, we could come up here, reject for continuation to the downside. Now, the other kind of view on it is stocks are obviously coming off a little bit. I'll go into the stock market in a minute. It is a bit risk off right now, which favors the dollar right now. This is a decent pullback. It's getting a reaction around this 200 on the 4-hour, which is, again, what you would expect. But if it does decide to breach through, possibly we could be on for this. So if you take this as a kind of larger structure, you know, we could be involved in something like this that is the bias for dollar continuation upside for quite some time, and, you know, going into the end of the year. So it'll be interesting to see what it does. Right now, intraday bias it looks quite strong, okay, because we've gone from, pullback territory to kind of pushing on. But, waiting to see what happens around this area, certainly around that 20, will be interesting. If we do break through, we've still got that 50 on this daily. So if we take a Fibonacci on the daily, we still got this 50 and 61.8 to contend with. So, until that's breached, we've kind of got to think, okay, the opportunity for selling dollar is there. But I think it's in a little bit of an interesting position. So again, I wouldn't be buying the dollar here. I wouldn't be selling it yet. You could potentially say if there's a hammer there, okay, maybe we get some downside action. But I think I would be waiting for probably a break above this area here. So a break and close above this area here, or a break and close below this area here for kind of your bias on the dollar intraday moving forward. You know, we have broken out from this structure. I know I'm kind of going into in detail, but I think it's quite important. We have broken out this structure. We have broken out with a little bit of volume. So yeah, interesting to see this 4-hour closure, and you know, possibly the next day leading on to the week on the directional of the dollar. Personal bias is still daily chart trend continuation to the downside, but you know, there could be a larger structure cut with handle there for dollar longs for a longer term play. Okay, indexes. So SPX. Now again, this is quite similar. I'll go into my CAD Swiss trade. So the SPX was looking good at this point in time. If I zoom in. So I'll zoom in here. So at this point in time, it was actually looking all right. You know, we had our complex corrective, a few bars here of consolidation before a breakthrough. NFP obviously changed that, and we came in, we pushed up again, but that push up was kind of fold. That push up failed, and we're coming back down. Now, if we zoom out and look at this price action as a whole, it's just not very nice. You know, as time went on, it became a little bit messy and a little bit like that momentum was stalling a bit. We have to remember we've come from this, which isn't massively nice. So possibly we're in pullback mode. Daily chart again, until we break through this daily anchor here, we're still on an uptrend, but we could just be pulling back to that 20. Although in saying it's just not very nice price action. Right? It's not very nice price action. So you've kind of got to go a bit neutral / slight risk off today. I know I've not changed it on my ticker up there, but that's just my personal error. But yeah, it is. It looks a little bit bearish, but the daily is still telling us it's not broken that trend anchor. So we've got to continue to play this to the upside until it tells us otherwise. So we're seeing some mixed messages, and I had a message yesterday actually from a kind of new trader saying, is it always this kind of up and down? You know, the dollar is up and down. We don't know which direction. And to be honest, no. You know, I don't. I think for me, this summer, specifically this summer, has been a difficult time to be trading. You know, certainly for me anyway. I know last month I would have a nice month with GA, but it is quite difficult. There's a lot of, you know, volatility upwards, downwards. There's no real directional bias coming in. Even though the stocks are pushing, we've seen that it's been tough to trade. So anyway. Okay, watch list today. Now, I did my watch list a few hours ago at 9 a.m., but I wanted to show you this. So USD NOK. And again, if I hadn't told you this was the smaller time frames, you wouldn't know. If we look at this setup, I'm not in this, by the way. This was a breakout on the 30-minute. So when I was looking at it, it was here. And remember, I always say that the most important part of the breakout is just prior to the break. And if we look at this price action, that is really nice going into that level, isn't it? Kind of hugging that 20 period, getting that squeeze in from this basing structure. And look at the effect that that had. So if this had been a 4-hour chart, right? If this had been a 4-hour, yeah, exactly. Yeah, well done, Rohan. Well done. Volume increase as well. And talking about the volume, look at this lowering volume. Well done, Rohan. I completely forgot to mention that. Lowering volume on this accumulation phase, hiring volume on that breakout. You know, that's ideal, isn't it? Ideal. So we had a context there from this basing structure. Now, again, I didn't take this trade because it's 30 minutes, so I need a breakout and retest. But I think it's good to kind of learn to show you that this really does work. We go up to the hourly chart. We can see that pattern as well. But not only have we got that pattern, the breakthrough is coming above that 200. Right? We're getting that crossover. Again, another good sign. 4-hour chart. What do we see on the 4-hour chart that could tell us that this wants to move to the upside? Firstly, we got a big gap here, which is good between the 200, so there's nothing in the way of that risk reward. But we've also got a simple head and shoulders on this 4-hour chart. Nice few hours, kind of a wedging structure here, 20 period curling up prior to that decent move to the upside. So that was again, I didn't take that trade because it wasn't a breakout retest, but you know, it's kind of a good thing to see of what I kind of look for. Again, if we make this a 4-hour chart as a breakout, certainly as a counter trend breakout, you've got some good confluences there with your, obviously with your trading time frame. This is A class. With your higher time frames, the 4-hour, you've got that head and shoulders context. And not only the head and shoulders, but the head and shoulders is actually broken because we've broken the neckline. So if we consider this, let's say we consider it from here rather than here, either way it's, you know, it's okay. We've broken that neckline. So you see how adding those confluences of the higher time frames in the daily as well, looking like there was that bend at the end of the trend. We've got our dark cloud cover here on open, which is a good bullish sign. An outside bullish engulfer here. So you see how you add these simple things in to get a nice trade. So I think that's a good kind of lesson on what we want to see. And it wasn't as CAD Swiss wasn't as nice as this, but it shows you that the power that these can have. Because if you did take a breakout, your stops here, you know, you take profit up and you'd be waiting for that swing. So USD NOK, good little example. That's nice. Yeah, it is very nice, Rohan. Unfortunately, it didn't decide to break out and retest for me, which a lot of the things that I've had on my watch list recently have been nice, but they're just not set up for me. So I was looking at the same thing with USD check. This is after the fact, I know, but you know, cut with handle there, push through. And if you had taken that one as a breakout, you would have been stopped out on that volatility. But the pattern was there. Again, I'll just show you this so you can, you know, if you like how I trade, that kind of repetition of what I'm looking for is there. So we had a cut with handle. Forget this happened. With our context as well. Outside bullish engulfing on this 4-hour. Again, I won on the daily. So your higher time frames, you've got that kind of inclination that this did want to rise. But you can see that it's not as clean as USD NOK. Anyway, let's look at trades which we can potentially take. So Euro Aussie is the first one. Now Euro Aussie on this hour chart, we're seeing our cup pattern. We've got our channel corrective. There's a little bit too much clear air for me, but it's okay if the retest works out nice. Now we've broken out this price action here. And again, this is, I haven't looked at the charts for an hour. It's not very nice, is it? And it's also coming on a little bit of volume. So really, unless this sets up as a complex corrective now, so we can kind of get rid of this in the following bars, if that makes sense, let that 20 catch up, you've kind of got to take it away. So I'm going to keep it on, but I would need that complex corrective just to digest this initial reaction on that breakout. So Euro AUD, I kind of like the premise. We are getting a reaction off that 200, but the thing with my breakout retests is GCAD breakout. I'll have a look at that, Lam. The thing with my breakout retests is if these orders are filled, right? So if I see a tag of the 200, right? As long as I get a tag of that 200, I consider those orders filled. And if it does set up, then it allows me to take that trade. So that's the only differential I have with that 200 is I consider once we have that initial reaction, for the tag to happen, those orders for me have been filled. If it resets up, I can take the trade. So I'm just going to watch Euro AUD. It may be a little bit nicer on this 30-minute chart, to be honest with you. You know, the price action there looks a little bit nicer than the 1 hour. But yeah, let's see. GJ I think is gone. Yeah, I won't talk about that. That's gone. A lot of these things are failing. I was looking at a V reversal here. Nice accumulation again on lowering volume, but it needed a breakthrough. So this one is one that has gone off the list. A lot of these things are failing actually. Euro pound. Okay, Euro pound. Here's one that's potentially a tradable. So I've changed the level. Initially we had this level here. I didn't take this trade, right? The reason why I didn't take the trade was it became a little bit messy up here, right? And I always say that the most important part of breakout is obviously just prior to the level. And that was a good trade not to take because you would have been stopped out here. However, we're kind of resetting up. So we've got our new level here. Nice V reversal basing structure. Potential complex corrective for a breakout to the upside. I'm not worried about this volatility spike. I'm looking at these closures as my level. So if we get something nice in here, let that 50% digest, then euro pound would be a decent trade to the upside. You know, again, going back to this rising 4 pattern here, excuse me, going back to this pattern here, this igniting pattern, maybe we're getting that, you know, starting to push on now. 20 periods close by. It's not extended. We've kind of digested this move to the upside. I like that context on the daily. Pound's been relatively weak. So euro pound is probably my favorite one out of all of them right now, considering a few of them's gone and EA is kind of a little bit messy. So this euro pound will be the one that I mainly watch. And we want that to continue to digest. China 50, let me know if you want me to look at anything, guys. I've only got the China 50 left, and then I'll look at CAD Swiss, the one I'm in. China 50 here. So China 50 on this daily chart, it's resetting up a little bit now. So we had our reversal, and now we're looking for that kind of lower high, simple Dow theory, into this downtrend for trend continuation to the downside. So that's quite simple, you know, simple setup here. If this price does not breach these highs, the setup is still on. Going with that trend, yeah, I like that as well. It is a daily chart, so it may take a little time to break or even set up, even if it does set up. But it doesn't look too bad. So that China 50 is on my list as a daily breakout. And finally, this CAD Swiss that I'm in. So CAD Swiss, it's kind of coming back up a little bit now. However, you know, this was looking good. So the breakout was fine, right? The breakout was fine. Kind of similar. Let's say we didn't take it here. We took it here, but let's say we took it here. You kind of get similar to USD NOK. Not as clean, but kind of. After the break, after the break, see this price action here? I was kind of a little bit worried about it because coming from this structure as a whole, you know, it was looking to me that kind of, you wanted it just to go push, you know, push up. It's broken out from the level, it retested that level. You're wanting it to really push, and it just didn't do that. So that's why I was a little bit, I have a feeling that this is going to come back off. And that's exactly what it did. You know, we still breached that 61.8. Still breached that 61.8. But maybe we're getting that complex corrective now. In my head, I'm like, okay, this is probably going to get stopped out. So I'm just like, okay, whatever happens now will happen. We do have big news out of the CAD later. So the CAD interest rate decision's out, I believe, at 6 o'clock my time. So that's about 4 hours, 45 minutes. And really that will affect, well, of course that will affect this currency pair, but the market likes it. You know, this should look quite good. The daily close, if the market does like it, will be a nice hammer on that 20 and 200. And your kind of bias goes back into play because it could be that kind of loss of momentum here and a bit of a harder reset before continuation to the upside. So, you know, stops here, whatever happens, like I said, will happen. And one tip I give you that helps me is whenever I look at a chart like this and whenever something's going a little bit offside or not my way, and I kind of have that urge of doing something silly, taking out, one thing I always say, and I've just noticed this recently, is I always say in my head, anything I do now is psychologically driven. Like anything I do now is psychologically driven. And I keep saying that to myself on every single trade. Obviously, you don't have to do anything when it's going up because that's easy, but when it's coming down and you're a bit offside like I am here. But for some reason, that helps me. So maybe it'll help you. If you're ever in that position where you think, I want to take this out, I'm scared it loses, just say to yourself, anything I do right now is psychologically driven, and maybe it'll help. Hey, I just entered the live. Hey, Abraham, good to see you, mate. I'm sorry, but I'm wondering what just happened to gold and crypto. Yeah, crypto's taken a massive drop, huh? I'll go into pound CAD first, and then I'll go into gold and crypto. But for me, Ibrahim, it's any dips on crypto is a good time to buy it. Pound CAD breakout. I mean, the breakout's kind of happened, right, Lam? There's not a context for me there. It's just a break of this range. So I was originally looking for shorts. Obviously, that didn't set up as soon as this happened. But yeah, I mean, getting a little bit of price acceptance above this area. You had the retest, good bullish pressure here on a bit of volume. Now, the good thing about this pound CAD to the upside is it's broken through these wicks, right? And these kind of hammer candles, this wicky price action, which should indicate, theory dictates that this should move to the downside. But breaking through this wick is not a bad sign for potential upward movement on that pound CAD. But again, you've got that CAD data coming out later today, which will move the markets. Looking at the charts now, sometimes you get a clue. There is 5 hours away. And when I mean a clue, it's sometimes like the latest 30-minute bar or 15 or 1 hour bar. But, you know, if the market likes it, that will obviously come back down. But it's maybe the price action, the kind of weakening off in the CAD is signaling something that we don't know. Maybe CAD's going to come out with poor data. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, that's what I would say. Pound CAD looks good to the upside now. Just be wary of that data. Okay, let's look at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's kind of falling off a little bit. I don't actually know the reason why. I don't really care the reason why, to be honest with you, Ibrahim. I don't mean that in a bad way. You know, this daily, big bearish engulfer on the daily. Roughly when you're breaking through that 51 area. I don't know, does anybody know if there's any fundamental news? I presume something's come out. Has Elon said something about Bitcoin again? However, in saying that, it looks as if like maybe this is coming to an end now. And my opinion on cryptos is the exact same thing. Buy the dip. Just buy the dip. Use your technical analysis skills that you've learned. And if you say you see this hammer bar here, close and you're right, okay, I'll buy some more there. That's it. I sometimes I do look to trade crypto, but you know that for me, just buy the dip. Very much like the SPX. So I in terms of technical perspective, that daily, if you get a close above that 200 as a nice hammer, then maybe that's the end of this kind of fall to the downside. But we can't discount this bar here. It is a big bearish engulfer. You may take a few days to digest that before possible continuation to the downside because, you know, if we look at this move to the upside here, if you put a line on it, it kind of looks like, again, just a very simple theory here of possibly losing momentum, right? So it may need, who asked me? Ibrahim. IMF had negative comments about El Salvador making, okay. All right, thanks, Paul. I didn't know that. Well, there you go. That's what's happened. I don't think. What's the saying? Buy the rumor, sell the fact, or sell the rumor, buy the fact. Should it be in crypto? Yeah, I think Ibrahim, you may get a slight bigger pullback, but if you hold it long term, you'll be fine. Bitcoin to 100 grand. Keep buying the dips. You'll make a lot of money. That is my personal opinion. You're all in. That's okay. Abraham, you just might have to wait around. You just might have to go and live your life for maybe a few days. You only lose money on crypto if you sell it, right? So you're not going to lose money. Bitcoin will not, I don't want to eat my hat on this, but Bitcoin's not going to zero. Bitcoin will likely more go to 100 grand than it will go to zero. I mean, overwhelmingly likely, right? If you're buying crypto for the long term, just relax. You'll be okay. Don't worry. Gold's very similar, like gold with the dollar strengthening up, right? We're getting a reaction around here. A bit more of a bigger reaction, so our kind of V reversal is possibly coming off the table here. With gold, we're at a slight support zone, but price action doesn't look great, does it? The move has happened, so maybe we're just digesting, let that 20 period catch up. But bias now has kind of got to be movement to the downside. Yeah, yeah, exactly, Abraham. Yeah, there's nothing else you can do about it. But if you can, I would buy more. If you can, so maybe on gold we get a retest of this area. If we see a catalyst here that it wants to move to the downside and break, and certainly a catalyst that breaks below this 200 and closes below this 200, you got to be thinking shorts for gold. Depending on what the dollar does. If the dollar decides to stay strong, then yeah, gold to the downside. That inverse relationship right now is doing its thing. Just wait for a little bit more confirmation, I would say. I wouldn't sell it now. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't sell it now. I would, because if you do sell it now, you'd be running the risk of potentially putting yourself through maybe 2-3 days of rangy price action where you're worried if it's going to come back or go down, right? So gold to the downside after continuation. Dollar's gaining strength. Dollar's gaining strength. Yeah, dollar looks strong, mate. Dollar looks strong. I did do my dollar analysis at the start of the video, so have a look at that if you want to know. There's a few different scenarios in play for me. Just watch that reaction on this daily 50, 61.8, this kind of 40, 60 box. But there's no doubt right now the dollar looks good. And a break above and a close above this 200 is another good sign. But we are getting to the point where we've had a decent move. So yeah, I like dollar longs. I just have, you know, my bias is kind of changing. So if this does come into fruition here, then you could see some dollar strength coming into the last quarter of the year. But let's see. Let's see. That's just an opinion. I'm not trading it. But anyway. All right, guys, I appreciate you coming. I'll be back on Friday next week after all the website upgrades are done. By the way, if you don't know, if you check the link down below, I've got a website where it's like an educational platform. 7 days, no credit card, free trial. If you want to check that out, we're just doing some massive upgrades. There's my plug. Plug's done. But make sure you trade safe, and I'll see you all on Friday. Cheers, guys. Peace.